What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. And in today's video, we're jumping into the Uncanny X-Men, issue number 2 and 3. And in this comic, we have Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler. But there are also 4 new, mysterious individuals. A group of young mutants. They came out of the woods. They came from nowhere asking for help. The only thing that we know is that they're being pursued by some kind of monstrous being. While all of this is happening, the X-Mansion, former headquarters of the X-Men, it has been requisitioned as a prison for mutants, being overseen by Karina Ellis. Among the inmates is Charles Xavier, Inmate X. Now, make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel, make sure that you like this video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 2, we pick up with Charles Xavier, and it starts us off by letting it know that this is all coming from the private journals of Charles Xavier, in a time before the mansion, before the chaos, before he became the man we know today. There was a simpler time. Before Moira, there was her. There was Sarah. Almost immediately, he was entranced by her. It wasn't long before we see this relationship kick off. This is where we hop over to present day with Rogue and Gambit. It is their first night at Haven in Louisiana. They thought that no one would come here to bother them. Unfortunately, these 4 kids are changing that perspective. With Remy having the Eye of Agamotto in hand, it was starting to affect him somehow. As this situation, the tensions just keep building and building, Rogue wants to de-escalate it. She wants to help these kids, she's just not sure how. But as the tall one begins to square off against Wolverine, we can see that this is going to get out of hand very quickly. But before Wolverine or this kid can do anything, the Eye of Agamotto shoots off, completely by accident. But it hits this kid and it shoots him flying back. That's when the kid gets up and he punches Wolverine in the face. Rogue tries to settle down the situation, but the blonde girl with a horse, she screams Pegasus Knight, and she turns into what appears to be a freaking Valkyrie. As one girl squares off against Gambit, she says hand-to-hand combat, and then she sets a timer for 1 minute. She jumps into the fight, and at least we can tell from this situation, she has a 1 minute timer, giving her the capability to kick some butt. As Rogue examines the situation, she's wondering how they even got themselves in a situation where they're losing to a bunch of teenagers. Logan getting back up to his feet. This is when the 4th kid comes over to him, dark and ominous. Kinda like he speaks to the dead, if you will. And he lets Logan know that you have killed such a great lot of people, and all of them miss you so. Taking us over to the prison, Ellis has Siren locked up. It appears that Ellis is trying to control her, trying to use her for something more. Now she's going around giving all of these mutant prisoners the impression that Charles Xavier is dead, that the dream is dead, that there is nothing left to fight for. But she vows that they are going to fix everything and wants Siren to be one of her trustees. Taking us back over to the fight, we have these teenagers that thought they may have the upper hand. They only had the element of surprise. The girl with the stopwatch, the timer's up, which means her hand-to-hand combat is gone. The Valkyrie girl getting knocked off her horse by Rogue, and Wolverine handling the other 2. As they get ready to fight yet again, this is when Jubilee shows up, throwing up her fireworks, wondering how she ended up the adult in this situation. Rogue rushes over to her and gives her a huge hug. But while they all try to catch up and figure out what's really going on, Rogue tells the kids to go sit by the fire. Wolverine knows immediately that there is something off about these kids. Something that just doesn't seem right. They smell like decay. While they try to handle this situation, Wolverine is really letting Rogue know that there's not going to be any more mentoring. At least for him, that he's out of this business. No more Uncle Wolvie, no more Daddy Logan, none of it. Wolverine isn't here to mentor anybody anymore. After everything that has happened, everything that they lost. He's just not ready to go down that path yet again. So as Rogue goes on to call Cyclops up and maybe try to figure something out to do here, we get introduced to these kids. The one with a 1-minute timer, her name is Jitter. The tall kid that stood toe-to-toe with Wolverine is Ransom. The kid that can talk to the dead is Deathstream. And then there's Calico, but she's not a mutant. She simply has nowhere else to go. All they know is that some kind of voice called them here, said that Wolverine and the others could save them. These kids are really coming to them saying that we have nowhere else to go and we need help. As we have the conversation with Cyclops and Rogue, Cyclops is saying that they're staying away from the prison at least for now. Based on the information that Jubilee has given them, they're gonna need more data, but they know that Charles is in there. It's just a matter of picking the right time to make their move. After looking at everything that's happening, this is where she calls Nightcrawler up. Because at this point, it looks like they're becoming the X-Men. That they're forming up a team and it wasn't even necessarily a choice. The biggest question that Wolverine has in this situation, who is hunting you? And the teens, they wonder, how can you not know? The one that is hunting us is the Hag. This is what takes us to the prison just before lockdown. We see the Hag. She is hunting for Ellis. She is hunting mutants for a bounty. And the Hag, the one hunting all of the mutants, was the once love interest of Charles Xavier. The Hag is Sarah. Now this is where we dive into issue number 3. We pick up inside the prison. We have Charles Xavier that is strapped down to a chair. But as he sits here, he hears a voice. He hears Sarah's voice. And she says that she could get him out of here. We see that she is even able to make him bleed. But she wants to know, where are the children? Why can't she find them? But not too concerned, because wherever they are, she intends to find them, and she will turn every one of those children away from Charles. This is what takes us down to the swamplands of Louisiana. Down in the bayou, we have Rogue and everybody else waking up for the day. Wolverine, already awake, made a cup of coffee. Him and Rogue begin to have a conversation, and Wolverine was pretty much up all night checking on the kids. And what he's been able to figure out so far is that Ransom, he's upstairs sleeping. Jitter, absolutely passed out. He assumes that she's kind of a mess. Calico out in the barn with her horse. And then Deathstream hanging out at the local cemetery. Rogue does find it weird that the kid in the hospital, he predicted all of this. But he also predicted that one of the kids was going to be the end of mutantkind. The conversation quickly shifts when Rogue sees his bag. Wolverine is leaving. Now Rogue at first gets very upset, saying that the kids need you and she needs him. But he knows that that's not true. He knows that something's wrong with him. He knows that she has felt it. He feels wild inside, and he is too scared that the people around him may get hurt. Rogue tells him that you go do what you gotta do, but when you're done, make sure to come home. But with everybody getting up for the day, they put in some hard work, and they make a makeshift danger room. They need to know what these kids are capable of. And so it's time to find out what that might be. With Nightcrawler bamfing in, Rogue hands him the belt, and all of them are to take this away from him. The first one to get the belt wins. And so with this getting underway, the first one to go in is Jitter. Her powers are kind of unique. All she has to say is something that she wants to be good at. In this case, advanced parkour. She gets a 1-minute timer. More or less, she's able to perfect anything she says for 1 minute. Coming from a very rough background, picked on constantly by the girls at school. That is until she learned this ability. Saying kickboxer, she beat the crap out of her bullies. But now the leader can't even walk anymore. Next one on the list, Ransom. His real name is Valentin from Argentina. When he was born, the nurses screamed. They couldn't detect a heartbeat. Then the x-rays showed that he didn't even have a heart at all. Coming from a wealthy background, his imperfections shamed the family. So when he was kidnapped, they wouldn't pay the ransom. They shot him 14 times. The bullets went through him and made him strong, running away from home at the age of 13. He's been on his own ever since. Then there is Calico. Her real name, Becca. Another one coming from great wealth. Never allowed to watch movies or TV or listen to music, the only thing that she ever had were books and her horse Ember. One night she had smelled the smoke. She went to the stables only to find that her horse was able to come out, but still no real understanding of where her powers come from. Death Dream, having the power over some kind of darkness. He was stillborn at birth. Umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, but they revived him. He had died 3 more times that first night. Eventually, he got to a point he could revive himself. But when he was dead, he dreamed of being alive. When he was alive, he thought only of the dead. But from then on, he was never alone again. As he gets a little bit out of hand, this is where Rogue interjects, knocking him in the face, making him let loose of Kurt. We kind of just got a taste of what these kids can do and what they might be capable of. But it's also looking like maybe not all of them are mutants. We know that Calico is not a mutant, but we don't know where her power comes from. Based on the description of the others, it would be fair to say that they're not necessarily mutants, but they were born differently. As we pick up in a national forest, Wolverine's doing what Wolverine does. He heads out into the wilderness. But as he does, there's something or someone that is sneaking up on him. Something that he can't smell. Something that he can't hear. This is the Hag. It's Sarah. By the way that Sarah begins to talk to him, he knows that this is going to be a fight. And so he pulls out his claws and he turns on the Hag. But there's a uniqueness to the Hag. She says that someone from her realm would make an answer to his claws. Her nails are that answer. They are forged from the melted blades of murderers. She refers to this as somber steel, that you can still hear the screams of the victims. The Hag taking her claws and driving them deep into Wolverine's belly. And so while Wolverine fights for his life, as he is gutted open and his entrails dropping all over the ground, Rogue can feel it. Wolverine is saying that he's in the dark, that he doesn't think it's gonna get any lighter where he's going. He tells her that you have to get away from those kids. As Rogue drops down to the ground, feeling the intense pain of what Wolverine is going through, she can feel that Wolverine is dying. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Not a bad story, relatively enjoyable. I'm not too keen on taking Charles Xavier and being like, oh yeah, by the way, there was another love interest years ago, and she's never made an appearance until after Krakoa. We just so happened to have her, and she's also a giant hideous monster from some realm. A realm that so conveniently knows how to make a counter to Wolverine's claws. It's all rather convenient. But for the sake of the story, we're gonna see where it goes. I'm really hoping that this is going to be focusing more in the future on rescuing everybody from the prison, rescuing Charles Xavier, even if Charles Xavier doesn't necessarily deserve to be rescued. It's kind of a weird concept that after everything that has happened, the mutants, or most mutants, are sitting idly by while a prison has been made out of their own mansion. That Charles is locked up. A bunch of others are all locked up. Now, Cyclops probably has a long-term solution to this, and that's why he's not ready to jump in just yet and try to save them and kick off some kind of new issue with humankind, with the US government, so on and so forth. But with 3 issues in, it's definitely not off to a bad start. We're getting introduced to some new characters. All of them seem pretty interesting. I am very curious to find out if they're actually mutants and which one might actually be the death of mutantkind, if any of them. My money would probably be on Calico, but I definitely could be wrong. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you want to get caught up on everything that is going on with this series, go ahead, check out the link in my description, as well as the top of this video. It's going to get you completely caught up on everything that is going on with this series. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.